Discussions about unionization in the game industry have been fairly common as of late, and for good reason. Billions of dollars of profit are generated by the workers of this industry, and comparatively, it feels like so few of those dollars make their way to the workers. With rampant layoffs and other issues of job insecurity constantly happening, the conditions for laborers are not great. And yet figuring out how to unionize in the game industry has been a complication all its own. Never mind the number of businesses' anti-union practices, there's also just the question of how do you organize? You have people working in multiple capacities, you have studios that are large and small, you have solo developers. How do we come together? How do we figure out what next move to make? Well, there is a union that is a cross-industry, cross-company union, CWA, the Communication Workers of America. They have formed a local chapter for video game workers, and if you work in games, you are eligible for CWA. So here to talk more about the CWA union are a panel of individuals. Please welcome to the stage Roland Quiros, James F. Wright, Carolyn Jong, and Giselle Francis.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks for attending our panel. My name is Roland, and I will be your moderator for this talk. It's dangerous to go alone, the road to our union. I have with me three of my fellow labor organizers, and we'll be sharing some of our experiences in the game industry, how those experiences led us to this new initiative, why we fight, and how you can get involved. With this talk, we're hoping to provide an idea of what it means to be an organizer in games for those interested in taking the plunge, and for those who already have, to either commiserate or celebrate our stories. Now, first, some context, and I am not going to sugarcoat it. It is rough out there. Whether we're talking AAA studios or small indie dev shops, the last couple of years have been a nightmare for anyone trying to make a living in games. No doubt you've heard the stories. Mass layoffs, studio closures, crunch, pay disparities, harassment from management, and hostile fan bases. And I don't linger on this slide and these stories simply to be a doomer about the state of the industry, but instead to beg the question, what is to be done? Our answer? Allow us to introduce United Video Game Workers.
Fight the party, fight the boss! Fight the party, fight the boss! We will put your game on pause! We will put your game on pause! United will never be defeated!
We are a direct join industry-wide union. That means this is a place for AAA workers, small studio workers, freelancers.
Who makes video games?
We will!
This right here, this is the right time for us to win the respect and dignity that we deserve.
This video was taken at our unveiling at the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco back in March of 2025 this year. As you heard some of our fellow workers in the video explain, United Video Game Workers, or UVW, is a union. If you are unaware, a labor union is, in its simplest form, two or more workers collaborating to build power and improve conditions in their workplace. The more workers collaborating, the more power you can build, and the more change you can effect. UVW is a direct join union, which means that any game worker from the United States or Canada can join today. It doesn't matter what discipline or what your employment status is. Either you could be full-time, contractor, or unemployed, as so many of us unfortunately are right now. You can join the union. If you work in games and you do not have the power to unilaterally hire or fire other workers, you can join. But you might be asking, lots of organizations have these kind of open join policies. Why is this so special? While our definition for a union seems relatively straightforward, there's actually a ton of legal hoops to jump through to establish a formal union in your workplace. You need to gather majority support among your coworkers. You need to have your employer either voluntarily recognize your union or seek recognition from the federal government or federal or provincial governments. And if you're in the US, the current federal government is not what I'd call exactly friendly to workers right now. And that's why the direct join model has become so important as we face our new political reality. We need to build power that is not dependent on any employer or government, but on our labor, and not just our ability to withhold that labor during a strike, but our ability to advocate for it, to legislate for it, to educate ourselves of our powers as workers. We are the lifeblood of the whole machine, and without our brain and muscle, not a single wheel can turn. So that is the background on our union. If you're watching this on the premiere stream, our future selves should be present in chat to answer any questions you might have. Feel free to ask those, and we'll do our best. Now it's time to meet our panelists. Enough of me yapping, or more of me yapping. So let's start. Can we hear names, pronouns, role in the industry, and any games you're playing recently? And let's start with.
Hi, I'm Giselle, pronouns she, her. I'm a narrative designer, and games I've played recently, Blueprints and South of Midnight.
Thank you. James.
Hey, I'm James. He, him. I'm a writer, narrative designer, and I am currently playing Citizen Sleeper 2. I love that so much. Yeah.
Awesome. Carolyn.
Hey all, I'm Carolyn, she, her pronouns, and I am a pixel artist. I've done some game design stuff in the past as well. What am I currently playing? Victoria 3. I'm a huge nerd. Yeah, that's all you need to know.
Awesome. And as you might have heard earlier, I am Roland, pronouns he, him. I am a game programmer working in the mobile space and also establishing a workers' co-op with some of my fellow worker organizers called Manzanita Interactive. Lately, I've been playing a game demo called Dead as Disco. It's a really cool beat 'em up where you can upload your own songs and fight to the beat. It's really cool. I've got 8 hours in, and it's just cool. So yeah, let's talk about some of our experiences organizing. What would you say is your organizing origin story? What got you into this work? Carolyn, let's hear from you.
Sure. So yeah, before I started working in games full time, I actually used to study video games in the games industry. At grad school, I worked at a video game lab. And I was also involved in like organizing some community events around the games industry. And I think from those experiences, I saw, fairly quickly that, marginalized people were not necessarily treated as equals within those spaces. Wasn't always, a great space or a safe space for folks who were racialized or who were, subject to sexism or transphobia or anything along those lines. I also happened to be coming into games and starting to make games around the time that Gamergate happened. And so that was a big kind of movement, we'll say, to kind of push marginalized people out of the space. And so just watching that happen around me, watching my friends get impacted, getting a certain amount of harassment myself, it became pretty clear to me pretty fast that we needed to do something about this. This culture was not, it's not friendly for folks who are marginalized. And I also realized through those experiences, kind of like working in those spaces as a research assistant, that, bosses or managers weren't necessarily going to protect you or do anything if you were in danger or, if you were struggling with these kinds of things. Sometimes they were the source of the danger. And that essentially it was up to us, like as folks in the industry, as folks working in games to be our own protectors, right? And to stand up for ourselves. So that's, in very general terms, I'd say that's what got me into organizing. Yeah.
Yeah, so you definitely felt a necessity to this work to be able to safely exist in the space.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was pretty clear. And, I realized also through those experiences that like a lot of the things that I was seeing that were affecting marginalized people, they were also reflections of like broader structural issues in the industry that were affecting everybody in the industry, right? That kind of like lack of power, the power dynamic that exists in those workplaces where, employers or managers have all the unilateral decision making. And that means that if you're affected by something, it can be really hard to know what to do about that and, how to face that as an individual. So yeah, I had a lot of, I guess, firsthand experiences that sort of led me in the organizing direction.
Yeah, I think I'm sort of similar in that I came into the industry, um, not through grad school. Like I came in industry about 5 years after graduating, but knowing the extent of the issues within the industry. So I didn't join immediately after out of graduating, but I did willingly join this struggle, knowing that there is a struggle. And I think there is like a testament to just like the passion of the workers in this field that in spite of all this, we still want to make games. We still want to make this art, no matter how cruel it is to us. And I feel like, knowing a bit about Giselle's background, I feel like you had a bit of a similar experience as well.
Yeah, I was coming into the industry in 2014. I was in college trying to figure out whether or not I wanted to change my major when Gamergate happened. And for those of us who are not in the know, it was a harassment campaign against women game devs in the industry, mostly again led by gamers, by like the consumers. Um, Despite all of that, I still ended up changing my major and going into the industry. And on my senior year, um, there was a panel at GDC. I think that was around 2017. Um, for it was a union roundtable, and for me, just learning about the industry as I was coming in, seeing the harassment, the layoffs, everything that was going on, it was kind of a no-brainer for me of like, I don't think that you could go through uh Gamergate and like not see why the video game industry needs a union. And for me, it was also a little bit of a insurance policy because my sister was trying to get into publishing at the same time. And it had a lot of the same issues of unnecessary, unpaid overtime, low pay, no senior mobility, no upper mobility, and the people in her industry were just like, well, that's just how it is. That's how it's supposed to be. So if you like, and if you don't like that, then just go find another industry. And so to be in this one and see the same problems, but have people who like actually wanted to fix it and who are saying, this is the way that you do it. These are the solutions. This is what we can do to make sure that this doesn't keep happening made it seem like I could enter the industry because by the time I was in it for a few more years, maybe things will have changed.
Wow. And like, that's kind of ties into my own origin story. That roundtable happened the same year I entered the industry. I got my first industry job. And not even a year later, I joined the LA chapter of Game Workers Unite that was formed as a result of that roundtable. So, yeah, it seems like, would it be fair to say that a lot of us came into this industry with the intent to change it?
Um, I didn't necessarily. For
Oh, I'm
me,
sorry.
it's okay. No, my origin is a little bit different. I I worked in sports television. I worked in sports television before I came into games, and then I also do comics. And so neither of those spaces had or have an industry have a union. There are unions in television, but sports TV doesn't have like an overall union kind of thing. And so I was not unfamiliar with unions, but just hadn't experienced either one in either space. And kind of to your point a bit about your sister Zell, like in publishing, like comics is similar. There wasn't like a union to cover people who, who write and draw these books and so on. And around the same time, I had friends who worked in games, and I was listening to a podcast. It was Waypoint, which is no longer a thing, but it's technically still Remap Radio. But they talked about labor issues a lot in games, which is a thing that like I'd never really heard people talking about at that point. And so I was listening to a lot of that. And so as I was able to kind of move into games, that was in the back of my mind. Like, there's not a union for games. Like, and there's these huge projects that like require so many people who oftentimes weren't getting credit for work and were doing long hours and crunch and so on. These things, these issues that I was aware of, kind of coming in with that. And so when I got in, like, I was like, okay, is there something I can do to kind of make those steps, take those steps, whatever. And like again, there was not like a industry-wide union at the time, and so I was trying to keep an eye on that stuff, and I had friends who were trying to just discuss those things with me as well. And so it was a kind of eye-opening, I think, to see like, okay, there's not something here. Okay, how do we build something here? And that's kind of how I got into it.
Awesome. And how once you decided to build something, how did that process usually go? You mentioned that you were talking with friends already. Did it just sort of naturally spiral from there?
It did. I think that like, so I, friends in the industry, whatever, and it's we're all seeing similar things at different places, at different studios, different companies, and you realize it's not just you. And then that plus like seeing wins here and there, seeing like, oh, this place organized, this place was able to get, a contract ratified. And it's like, okay, it's not impossible. And that is like a motivating factor as well, it's like it gives you some fuel for your own fires.
That's awesome. What ones in particular? If like I joined up around the beginning of the unionization movement, the current unionization movement. And I always felt like I was kind of patient zero in my workplaces. Like I was the one who wanted to get this ball rolling, and there weren't many wins within the industry to speak of. But the fact, like in the years since, we've had so many so many colossal wins by unions. Um, what do you remember which of them inspired you to take this up?
I think it was Raven was the first one I remember seeing. Raven was the first one I remember seeing that like, oh, they did it. And it was when my expectations, I guess, of unionizing was like the whole studio did it, but like seeing like, okay, there was the QA workers at Raven stuff who did, and it's like, okay, you can build that way. You can build, step by step small. Okay, this part of this portion of it. And I was like, that was inspiring to me to see that. And then it was like, okay, can you replicate that, and that was sort of that was the first, win. And then, you know, um, wins are also for me was also just like talking to coworkers, like was like a huge step. It's like, okay, talking to coworkers about organizing, specifically it's like not just like, hey, how you doing, but like, okay, and to get a positive response from them was incredible. To be like, oh, it's okay, you're on the same page. Like it's such a great feeling to kind of experience that. So that was a win for me.
Hell yeah. Um, yeah, and like speaking of early wins, I guess I have two lines of questions I really want to pursue here. But I guess speaking of early wins, Carolyn, you were on the organizing committee for one of the first unions in the industry. How did that start?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it started really with like, so first of all, I guess a few of us had already kind of been involved in the movement for a little while. Like I was involved in Gamers Unite Montreal. I helped get that organization off the ground. And so we already were kind of coming into the space like knowing like, hey, there's probably going to be problems because there's problems at every company. And if there are problems, it's good to like have the support of your coworkers to deal with that. So I think like, just as a worker in the space, I was like really focused on like, and so were some of my coworkers, focused on just like building connections and building a sense of like camaraderie and like making sure that like, yeah, we get to know our coworkers and we get a sense of like, what is it that brought you to this industry? What do you like about your job? What don't you like about your job? So it really started with just that, like building connections, building solidarity, getting a sense of who we were. And then things started to go a bit, we'll say downhill at the company. The project that I was on, our boss announced one day that it was going to get canceled, that people were going to get laid off. And I think luckily because we had built a bit of that foundation, as soon as that happened, we were immediately like, oh, we've got to reach out to our coworkers about this and like let them know, what's happening. And we did, and people were incredibly supportive. And I think because again, we had like already some of those bonds built, their first question was like, well, what can I do? How do I help? And so we started talking about organizing and like, saying like, oh, we don't like how this decision was just made unilaterally without us having any say, any notice really. And so we started talking about, well, let's try to organize and like see what we can do, for the folks who are going to be impacted, and also make sure that like this doesn't happen again, essentially, to try to sort of like build a strong foundation. And there were lots of things that we liked about the job as well. So part of the focus was just like, let's try to like make sure that those benefits or the things that we enjoy about it, that's locked in, right? And that's something that like we know is going to stay for the long term. And so we started, talking to each other. We started having meetings with CWA, the Communication Workers of America, just to like learn more about, how's the union work, like what are the next steps. And then very quickly, within like a process of a matter of months, we had signed cards. We were going to our boss as a group to ask for voluntary recognition. We had 100% support from all of our coworkers, which was amazing and beautiful. We're also like a fully remote studio spread across Canada and the US. So it was not like what most people would imagine would be like the first, case for organizing, I guess. There were a lot of challenges, but yeah, I think it was really like just us coming together to support each other. And that's how we decided to ask for voluntary recognition and get certified.
And I know for certain that victory kind of resounded throughout the rest of the industry. And the contract that you drafted for that campaign made the language there made its way into other companies, under other union campaigns contracts as well.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the most fulfilling parts of the experience, was just like be able to pass on what we learned to other campaigns and other organizing efforts, and like shout out to the tender clause workers who took some of our contract language and put it in their collective bargaining agreement, and then won the first bargaining agreement for a video game studio in North America.
Hell yeah. Giselle, I suppose the same question for you. How did your first campaign start? Were you patient zero? Was it based off of your own like sort of compulsion to pursue the union, or did someone try to organize you?
Someone did try to organize me, and it was very, very easy to get me.
Hell yeah.
I got pulled in into an effort, and that was basically it. It's not much of a story.
I mean, that's awesome. I wish that happened to me. Um, did the I guess from there the momentum was already going, right? Like how if you are at liberty to say like roughly how many people were in that effort when you were brought on?
So I think this is probably something that I shouldn't get too detailed with. Um, I'll say that in one of the efforts that I was in, it was still like pretty early stages, just like a handful of people. And someone that I was relatively close with got pulled into the effort, and they were like, oh, I know from experience that Giselle would be an easy get. Like, we've talked about this before. We just didn't know that this was happening. But yeah, I think past that, I can't say too much more.
After joining one of these efforts, did it change how you moved through your workplace? I know for me, I am like dreadfully introverted, so without the sort of the force of this movement, I probably would not have reached out to as many coworkers as I would have, and it really changed how I interacted with my coworkers and how I like approached being in this space. Did any of you feel the same? Did
Yeah,
did did you notice a change?
yeah, I think I'm a pretty naturally extroverted person, but I'm also like anxious. And I don't want to bother anybody. I will talk anybody's head off if you let me, and if you're open to it. But especially like in a remote setting, which like I think every single one of my jobs has been remote. Um, it's like it's kind of awkward, I guess, to go up to like pull someone's name up and to be like, "Hi, you don't know me. We've never spoken. But you please be my friend." And so, but being kind of part of efforts like this made me more confident in doing that, and just like figuring out how to strike up conversations with people. I feel like a lot of times we are kept siloed, where um, we work with the people who are directly around us, who have the exact same like titles or related titles as us, and outside of that, you don't really talk to anybody. Like there's like you don't really have a reason to, or like unless you do have a reason to, then that's when you do it. But yeah, I think that learning how to organize just changed things in how I approached people, and like gave me permission to approach people and to make uh deeper deeper friendships than I would have if I just kind of stayed in my little corner. Like someone wants to go is going skiing next weekend, they'll be like, "Oh, I ski too." Or like someone's got a dog, I'll be like, "I have a dog too. I love your dog. What's his name?" And like, yeah, just like uh made working at places less lonely as a side result.
Yeah, if I can jump in real quick. Yeah. Speaking especially about the working remote and the silo thing, you do kind of only interact with like a small group, just as a matter of course of your job. And reaching beyond that silo, I'm an introvert, so reaching beyond that silo is very like nerve-wracking for me. But one tip that someone gave me was like people love to talk about their jobs and what they do, and asking someone, hey, who's in a different department from me, like, hey, what is your job? What do you do? Like, what do you like about it? Whatever, just like real, which is a natural question anyway, but like you, to interact with someone outside of your area and to get those kind of, oh yeah, like let's hop on a call and I'll tell you what I do. Like I'll show you, walk through, and you tell me what you do. And it just like that's a natural kind of thing because you learn more about the job and the company as well. Like there's things you pick up on that stuff too. And it's also like a good way to, see what people's, things they like about their jobs, things they don't like about their job. And those are things you can kind of use as well to kind of, as you organize. And so the the confidence you kind of get from that stuff, doing that work, was like it made my job more exciting too, because like my group wasn't just the people in my department, it was everyone at the company who was, not management.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely the same for me. Like breaking through the isolation is so important. And I also feel like it just made me more attuned to, the needs of my coworkers, like, yeah, what they wanted to get out of work, out of, life. And I think it made me a better person in a lot of ways, like better able to navigate conflict, braver about reaching out and being vulnerable with people. We're all messy humans, and it's like that's really hard sometimes. So having some kind of purpose or sense of like, oh yeah, we're doing this for a cause, like that really helps to kind of like push you a little bit out of your comfort zone in a way that I think ultimately, yeah, helps you grow and learn.
Yeah, as game workers, I feel like a lot of us just love to be like playing on our computer, and I've like my experience has been this like similar to everyone else's. Like there's definitely a timeline where I just kind of kept to myself and just sort of entertained the introvert urges to never like reach out beyond my immediate teams. But it has just been such an enriching experience. I've met so many people. I've been a part of so many efforts, so many like actions that I probably never would have had I not taken this up. And I had the pleasure of meeting all of you. Um, yeah, incredible. So what would you say was like the most nourishing interaction you've had while organizing, while also like observing the limits of what we could talk about with our campaigns? But has there been like a particular experience that was like, yeah, oh geez, this was worth doing.
Um, I'm gonna jump. Sorry, this is like I'm top of mind right here. But yeah, two things I'll say real quick. One was just like joining UVW, and it was Giselle who kind of got me in into the organization, the union, and like seeing other people of color just in the group was like huge for me because like many game spaces, as we probably know, statistics, whatever, like there's not a ton of us to begin with in the industry, and then organizing spaces, it's smaller as well. And so like it's nice not being the only black person in the room or whatever, like seeing, okay, like, ooh, it's not just me, like there's someone else here. And like, oh, there's more, like to build in that space is such a nice thing to kind of have. And then also I'll add, the first time I did phone banking, with UVW was just like you're so nervous, but like hopping on a phone call with someone, to kind of tell them about what the union is, and you kind of get them to join on. In some interactions, like the other person on the line is another Black person, and so I was like, it was cool to just have like a little bit of like that connection too. Like, okay, this is like, building this space is not just it's the union, obviously, but having more people of color, more Black people, for example, like in that union, like hearing like a yes and like I'll join and kind of sign the petition is like huge for me. So like that was those things were really like nourishing, as you said. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say too, when we were first building this, and we just had that, we all had a meeting in LA, and just like meeting so many people who had just were going through the same issues of like just talking really openly and honestly about layoffs, about like the different harassment campaigns that we've experienced while working here, um, getting changed from full-time to contracting, or like all like being forced to be in that freelance life for a very long time, relocating and then getting laid off right afterwards and having to scrounge what you have to like go back home. All of these just like these things that we were all experiencing, and have kind of like in isolation, like, had to deal with these things often in isolation, and be just dealing with our anger and frustration, but like, and finally having the chance to um, talk about it and possible solutions with just a larger amount of people was so uh, yeah, nourishing, relieving. It made us feel like a better future is possible. Um, and like, yeah, we don't just have to take all of this sitting down. Like, we can do something about it. This doesn't have to be our lives.
Oh my God, yeah, I relate to that so much. Like that sense of hope and like, oh, a better world is possible. We can, if we stand together, we can do something about it. Yeah, I absolutely experienced that at Podio, like when, again, we were like, some of us are getting laid off. And it wasn't even most of the studio. It was like a small number of us on one team, but people still rallied to support us. And it was the same for like, some of us were freelance and folks rallied around that. And we're like, hey, let's like, work together to make sure we get like paid time off for freelancers, like try to make things more equitable at the company. We did salary sharing as well, and like realized that, turns out systemic oppression, that some of the people who are marginalized are getting paid less, not through any explicit malice, but that's how things tend to work out. So like realizing that and then being like, okay, let's like implement a pay scale to like make sure that, we're all being paid equitably here, and that we try to address some of those imbalances. Like that was just incredibly empowering and like, really heartwarming to see everyone just like be like, yeah, we're here to support you. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, seeing these organizing efforts come together in such a big way, whether they lead to a contract or otherwise, it's been you just get in touch with so many people. You get to see what unites us in terms of like our grievances and really our passions, especially in this industry. We all really want to make these games in spite of everything that tries to stop us from doing that. And I think that uh, this work is so important. So what is some advice y'all would give to someone interested in just starting in organizing or who would want to join UVW to begin the organizing journey?
I can start off, I guess. I'll
Yeah.
say, yeah, as someone who's been doing this, I guess, for a while, like since 2018 at least, it is really important to learn from others, right? To like be, like doing an organizing training. It's a great way to get started. Code CWA offers them for free online almost every weekend. So there's lots of resources out there, and there's lots of people you can learn from. There's generations of organizers of color out there who have like been doing, the hard work and fighting the good fight for years, decades, centuries. So like learning from those past experiences and not being afraid to ask for help also, and being like, like in union organizing, there's no stupid questions. Like you can ask anything and like people will be happy to help you. I know like, yeah, my fellow UVW members are some of the like kindest, most caring people I've ever met. So and very, very happy to like answer questions and help out. So yeah, definitely encourage you to like reach out, get involved. Don't be afraid to dip your toes in and just like try things, try reaching out to your coworkers. Like it's really through that experience that we learn and, grow and are able to do better.
If you want to join UVW, go to uvw-cwa.org, and our membership forms should be right on the website.
Yeah, I'll add real quick. You mentioned, Caroline, you mentioned decades and centuries, and it's true. Like these things do take time. Like it's not going to happen overnight, but we're all in this together. So like building these relationships, building this, this movement there may be setbacks, but it is a thing that's moving forward. And you want to be a part of that. That's how we kind of get the wins we need. So we change the industry for the better, to make things more equitable, not just for us, but for people who come after us. There's future generations of gamers, people who make games, developers all across the board, like who will benefit from this too. It's not just, not just now, it's going to be the future. So,
Yeah, maybe I'll just add also, I think like knowing going into it that there's going to be challenges, right? Like you said, James, that's not necessarily going to happen overnight. Because also, as marginalized people, we're also like more vulnerable in some ways to like being isolated or being, targeted, whether that's by management or otherwise. And so, yeah, it's good to know, go in with your eyes open essentially, and like be aware that it's not going to necessarily always be smooth sailing, but I think that reminding yourself always that like you're not alone, that there's this long history, that people have done this before, and that ultimately like being brave, it pays off, right? Like we're in the process right now of building a better future, and like already things have started changing as a result of the organizing that's been happening. So that's only going to continue and grow as the movement grows.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, that's a beautiful note to end on. We're super excited about what the future holds for United Video Game Workers and the labor movement as a whole. We're facing some pretty intense opposition from our current political reality, but I'm sure with the communities we build and the collective strength we gather, we'll be able to weather this storm together. So thanks for coming out. If you would like to, as Giselle mentioned earlier, if you would like to join UVW, you could find us at uvw-cwa.org. You'll find the membership form right in front of you. You can also follow us on Blue Sky or Instagram at these handles. Hope we answered questions effectively in chat. Shout out to our future selves. And yeah, thank you for joining our talk.
Thank you so much for that panel. It's true, it's dangerous to go alone. And that doesn't make it easy for us to go together, particularly when we have political administrations and corporations that are pretty invested in our failure. But I don't see that failure as inevitable. In fact, I see the opposite. So many people are coming together and finding these opportunities to build collective strength. We have unions that are forming. We have smaller organizations that are making social change. And for as much as we see the stories of the bad news on the news, oftentimes when we get out in our communities, talk to people, we can see those glimmers of hope. We can foster those seeds. We can nurture this new landscape. We can build something better together. What's that saying? The workers united will never be defeated? I believe that. I hope you do too. If you'd like to learn more about CWA, you can find out on their website at cwa-union.org. You can also follow our panelists individually on Blue Sky. You can find Carolyn at CK John. You can find Giselle at Beware the Siren. You can find James at Chuck Spear. And you can find Roland at Video Game Workers.